Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on demand care for common ailments such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stlukesonline.org. More Idaho Matters now from the studios of Boise State Public Radio News. I'm Gemma Gaudette. Throughout his life, Ernest Hemingway was inspired by many places, including Ketchum, Idaho, where he lived his final years. So it only seems appropriate that that's where the annual Ernest Hemingway Seminar is held. The 2.5-day event is hosted by the Community Library in Ketchum. So joining us now to talk more are Martha Williams, Program and Education Director of the Community Library. Martha, I want to welcome you to the program.
Thanks, Gemma. Thank you for having me on.
Can you start out by telling us a little bit about this year's seminar?
Absolutely. So this is our 17th seminar, and each year we pick a text to focus it around, and that really grounds us in Ernest Hemingway's writing and his life. And this year, our main text is A Movable Feast, which are his memoirs or stories, depending on how you look at it, about his time in Paris in the 1920s. And this is really a seminal period when Ernest Hemingway is crafting himself as a writer, really dedicating himself to that, kind of figuring out what it's going to take for him to become the writer that we know him as today. So we will spend 2.5 days digging into that book from many different perspectives.
So why did you choose that book and that theme?
So it's definitely a favorite book of many people, I will say, and especially writers. We have a writer in residence program that goes on throughout the year at the Hemingway House, which the community library stewards. And often I talk to them that it is their favorite book. It is a book that writers turn to, but it's also a book that many readers and lovers of Ernest Hemingway enjoy. It also has a distinct connection to Ketchum and to Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
He was working on A Movable Feast at the end of his life, and so he was working on this manuscript, which he didn't finish. It was published posthumously 3 years after his death, but he was working on it in part here in Ketchum in the house that the community library now manages.
Why do you think so many people are fascinated with Ernest Hemingway? And I ask this too for my own personal edification because my husband um, loves Ernest Hemingway. I mean, to the point where I've been to the Hemingway house. I've been to his house in the Florida Keys. I have been to where he lived in Paris. I have been taken on many tours of Ernest Hemingway's life because of my husband. And he was an English major as well. So I'm very curious as to why people are so enamored with him.
I think there's so many different answers, but the one I have developed over the years of working for the library and being part of his Idaho legacy and trying to share that is that he is endlessly fascinating. I mean, he did so much in his own life. He traveled all around the world. He had all these amazing experiences. He was at every significant thing that happened over the course of his life. He was at World War II.
Mm.
He was in World War I. He was
Mm-hmm.
a journalist covering World War II. He was at the Spanish Civil War. You can point to so many things so many places where he placed himself. And then he wrote about all of these things. So reading his work gives us so much insight into particular times and places. But also, I think he transformed American letters. He was such a big part of a new movement towards the modernist style of writing. And really, when people read his work today, I think I see this often when people experience his work for the first time. Sometimes they're a little surprised at how simple it is. He wasn't
Mm-hmm.
a metaphorical writer. It's very accessible writing. And I think that resonates with a lot of people too.
So let's talk a little bit about the seminar itself. Can you talk to us about some of the speakers that you're going to be hosting for the event?
Yes. We are very excited about all of our speakers. Our opening keynote, which is tomorrow night on Thursday, September 4th, is Sean Hemingway. And Sean is a grandson of Ernest's, who we have been wanting to invite for a long time. And he edited the revised edition of A Movable Feast. So it made
Hmm.
great sense to invite him this year. Sean is also, in his own right, the curator in charge of Greek and Roman art at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. He has had a wonderful career in archaeology and museum work, and then kind of on the side also stewards the Hemingway literary world. And so we are very excited to have him come and really talk about the inception of A Movable Feast, as Ernest left it at the time of his death, the story of how it was published posthumously, and then the story of how it was later revised by Sean as he dug into his grandfather's letters and journals and manuscripts that were left over and really attempted to return the manuscript to what he thought Ernest intended for
Mm.
it. So he's one speaker we're very excited about. And then Boise State University is an ongoing sponsor of the event. And so we will have several of their faculty and adjunct joining us. Clyde Moneyhun is a regular speaker, and he'll be talking about, he'll be arguing that the book is really could be considered a travel narrative,
Huh.
maybe more than memoir or story. Stacy Gwill, who teaches often for the Osher Institute at BSU, will be speaking about the women who are in A Movable Feast and how significant they were in really guiding Ernest during these early years of writing. And then Mac
Hmm.
Test is the third person from Boise State. He will be leading a writing workshop tomorrow ahead of the seminar, and then also leading discussion groups during the seminar.
So I only have about 1 minute left with you, Martha. How can people participate in this event?
So we have sold out on our in-person passes, but we have an unlimited number of virtual participants that we can invite to join us. And so people can sign up to join us online. It's $30 to join online for the 2.5 days, and you get Vimeo links to watch all the presentations and also the opportunity to participate in a Zoom breakout discussion on A Movable
Hmm.
Feast. And if you haven't read it, that's okay. You can come join anyway, and maybe you'll be inspired to read it.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and talking about this. Hemingway is a fascinating person, so appreciate the conversation. We've been speaking with Martha Williams, Program and Education Director of the Community Library in Ketchum, talking about the upcoming Ernest Hemingway seminar, which kicks off tomorrow. I'm Gemma Gaudette, and this is Idaho Matters.